Solomon, the personification of universal wisdom. The name Solomon may be divided into three syllables: Sol, Om, On, symbolizing light, glory, and truth collectively and respectively. The Temple of Solomon is, therefore, first of all, the house of everlasting light, its earthly symbol being the temple of stone on the brow of Mount Moriah. According to the mystery teachings, there are three temples of Solomon, as there are three grand masters, three witnesses, and three tabernacles of the Transfiguration. The first temple is the grand house of the universe, in the midst of which sits the sun, Sol, upon his golden throne. The 12 signs of the zodiac as fellow craftsmen gather around their shining lord. Three lights, the stellar, the solar, and the lunar, illuminate this cosmic temple. Accompanied by his retinue of planets, moons, and asteroids, this divine king, Solomon, whose glory no earthly monarch shall ever equal, passes in stately pomp down the avenues of space. Whereas Hiram represents the active physical light of the sun, Solomon signifies its invisible but all-powerful, spiritual and intellectual effulgency. The second symbolic temple is the human body, the little house made in the image of the great universal house. Know ye not, asked the Apostle Paul, that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? Freemasonry within a temple of stone cannot be other than speculative, but Freemasonry within the living temple of the body is operative. The third symbolic temple is the Sular House, an invisible structure, the comprehension of which is a supreme Freemasonic arcanum. The mystery of this intangible edifice is concealed under the allegory of Thsoma Sukkakon, or wedding garment described by St. Paul, the robes of glory of the high priest of Israel, the yellow robe of the Buddhist monk, and the robe of blue and gold to which Albert Pike refers in his Symbolism. The soul, constructed from an invisible fiery substance, a flaming golden metal, is cast by the master workman, Hiram Abiff, into the mold of clay, the physical body, and is called the molten sea. The temple of the human soul is built by three master masons personifying wisdom, love, and service. And when constructed according to the law of life, the Spirit of God dwells in the holy place thereof. The Sular Temple is the true everlasting house, and he who can raise, or cast it is a master mason indeed. The best informed Masonic writers have realized that Solomon's temple is a representation in miniature of the universal temple. Concerning this point, A. E. Waite, in a new encyclopedia of Freemasonry, writes, "It is macrocosmic in character, so that the temple is a symbol of the universe, a type of manifestation itself. Solomon, the spirit of universal illumination, mental, spiritual, moral, and physical, is personified in the king of an earthly nation. While a great ruler by that name may have built a temple, he who considers the story solely from its historical angle will never clear away the rubbish that covers the secret vaults. The rubbish is interpolated matter in the form of superficial symbols, allegories, and degrees which have no legitimate part in the original Freemasonic mysteries." Concerning the loss of the true esoteric key to Masonic secrets, Albert Pike writes, "No one journeys now, from the high place of Kaban to the threshing floor of Oman the Jebusite, nor has seen his master, clothed in blue and gold, nor are apprentices and fellow crafts any longer paid at their respective columns. Nor is the master's working tool the tracing board, nor does he use in his work chalk, charcoal, and an earthen vessel, nor does the apprentice, becoming a fellow craft, pass from the square to the compass, for the meanings of these phrases as symbols have long been lost." According to the ancient rabbins, Solomon was an initiate of the mystery schools, and the temple which he built was actually a house of initiation containing a mass of pagan philosophic and phallic emblems. The pomegranates, the palm-headed columns, the pillars before the door, the Babylonian cherubim, and the arrangement of the chambers and draperies all indicate the temple to have been patterned after the sanctuaries of Egypt and Atlantis. Isaac Maya, in the Kabbalah, makes the following observation. The Pseudo-Clement of Rome writes, "God made man male and female. The male is Christ, the female, the Church. The Kabbalists called the Holy Spirit, the mother, and the Church of Israel, the daughter." Solomon engraved on the walls of his temple likenesses of the male and female principles, to adumbrate this mystery. Such, it is said, were the figures of the cherubim. This was, however, not in obedience to the words of the Torah. They were symbolical of the upper, the spiritual, the former or maker, positive or male, and the lower, the passive, the negative or female, formed or made by the first. Masonry came to northern Africa and Asia Minor from the lost continent of Atlantis, not under its present name but rather under the general designation sun and fire worship. The ancient mysteries did not cease to exist when Christianity became the world's most powerful religion. Great Pan did not die. Freemasonry is the proof of his survival. The pre-Christian mysteries simply assumed the symbolism of the new faith, perpetuating through its emblems and allegories the same truths which had been the property of the wise since the beginning of the world. There is no true explanation, therefore, for Christian symbols save that which is concealed within pagan philosophy. Without the mysterious keys carried by the hierophants of the Egyptian, Brahmin, and Persian cults, the gates of wisdom cannot be opened. Consider with reverent spirit, therefore, the sublime allegory of the temple and its builders, realizing that beneath its literal interpretation lies hidden a royal secret. According to the Talmudic legends, Solomon understood the mysteries of the Kabbalah. He was also an alchemist and a necromancer, being able to control the demons, and from them and other inhabitants of the invisible worlds he secured much of his wisdom. In his translation of Clavicula Salomonis, or the Key of Solomon the King, a work presumably setting forth the magical secrets gathered by Solomon and used by him in the conjuration of spirits, and which, according to Frank C. Higgins, contains many sidelights on Masonic initiatory rituals. S. L. MacGregor Mathers recognizes the probability that King Solomon was a magician in the fullest sense of that word. I see no reason to doubt, he affirms, the tradition which assigns the authorship of the key to King Solomon, for among others Josephus, the Jewish historian, especially mentions the magical works attributed to that monarch. This is confirmed by many Eastern traditions, and his magical skill is frequently mentioned in the Arabian Nights. Concerning Solomon's supernatural powers, Josephus writes in his 8th book of the Antiquities of the Jews, "Now the sagacity and wisdom which God had bestowed on Solomon was so great that he exceeded the ancients, in so much that he was no way inferior to the Egyptians, who are said to have been beyond all men in understanding. God also enabled him to learn that skill which expelled demons, which is a science useful and sanative to him. He composed such incantations also by which distempers are alleviated. And he left behind him the manner of using exorcisms, by which they drive away demons, so that they never return. And this method of cure is of great force unto this day." The mediaeval alchemists were convinced that King Solomon understood the secret processes of Hermes by means of which it was possible to multiply metals. Dr. Backstrom writes that the universal spirit, see Hiram, assisted King Solomon to build his temple, because Solomon, being wise in the wisdom of alchemy, knew how to control this incorporeal essence and, setting it to work for him, caused the invisible universe to supply him with vast amounts of gold and silver which most people believed were mined by natural methods. The mysteries of the Islamic faith are now in the keeping of the dervishes, men who, renouncing worldliness, have withstood the test of 1001 days of temptation. Jalal-ud-Din, the great Persian Sufic poet and philosopher, is accredited with having founded the order of Mevlevi, or the dancing dervishes, whose movements exoterically signify the motions of the celestial bodies and esoterically result in the establishment of a rhythm which stimulates the centers of spiritual consciousness within the dancer's body. According to the mystical canon, there are always on earth a certain number of holy men who are admitted to intimate communion with the deity. The one who occupies the highest position among his contemporaries is called the axis or pole of his time. Subordinate to the QB are two holy beings who bear the title of the Faithful Ones, and are assigned places on his right and left respectively. Below these is a quartet of intermediate ones, and on successively lower planes 8 5 lights and 7 very good. The next rank is filled by 40 absent ones, also termed martyrs, shuhada. When an axis quits this earthly existence, he is succeeded by the faithful one, who has occupied the place at his right hand. For to these holy men, who also bear the collective titles of Lords of Souls and Directors, is committed a spiritual supremacy over mankind far exceeding the temporal authority of earthly rulers. See Mysticism and Magic in Turkey, by L. M. J. Garnett. The Axis is a mysterious individual who, unknown and unsuspected, mingles with mankind and who, according to tradition, has his favorite seat upon the roof of the Kaaba. J. P. Brown, in The Dervishes, gives a description of these master souls. Excerpt from The Secret Teachings of All Ages, Illustrated, Manly P. Hall.